Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. This is in fact the last Books Beside My Bed video for the foreseeable future, which makes it kind of bittersweet, and I may or may not be kind of freaking out over the fact that I have decided to change up how I do content wrap-ups on my channel, because it means now I need to actually see if I can do what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I'm excited because I think I'm going to have a little bit more flexibility. If you haven't heard me talk about this, I'll leave my 2025 channel plans linked up above. I'm so excited to share this last wrap up with you. Even though the year is not finished and I will be reading books between now and the end of the year, those books are going to be rereads. I've just decided to reread my absolute favourites from 2023 because I didn't have any absolute favourites that I desperately want to reread from this year. So I'm going to be rereading Role Playing, which is my annotation book for the month, as well as Gravity and the rest of the story by Tal Bauer, because I want to end my year on a high note, and those books are just pure joy to me, despite the fact that basically all of them make me ugly cry every time I read them. So I really don't need to talk to you about those books after I read them, because I have read them multiple times on this channel. In fact, I'm probably going to film at least some of the annotating of Role Playing anyway, so you will see that. Those books are just serotonin hits for me, which is what I need at the end of the year, because we are currently existing in that weird week between Christmas and New Year where everything is just bizarre. I actually read a fair amount during Christmas week. I wasn't expecting to, because I was away, and then I was also really sad that I couldn't read more, because usually that week is the week that I do read a ton, but being away and being with family and things like that, it made it a little bit difficult, but I still got through a few things. So the first book I read was Alex by Sawyer Bennett, which is the first book in the Cold Fury series, which is one of my series to read next year. And no, I don't care that I started it this year, because there was like 71 books that fit into all of those series, so I needed to start it. You can really tell that this is one of Sawyer Bennett's earlier works, because there were definitely things about it that I didn't love. It is a hockey series. We have Alex, who is a pro hockey player. He is very much a bad boy. He has a bad attitude. He does not treat fans well. He does not play nice for the media. He is that way for a reason. He needs to be in therapy, but he is that way for a reason. His bad attitude basically gets him on the radar of management, who say, right, you have to start playing ball. You have to start playing nice with all of us. And in order to achieve this, we are sending you to work with a drug education center, I think it is. And the person who works there is going to work with you, and you're going to help them with a project to create a drug education program for teens, which is something that, ironically, Alex even states that he would like to do, but he's being forced to do it, so he's a bit grumpy about the whole thing. And he ends up meeting Sutton, who is the woman who runs the program, and it's their relationship. And both Alex and Sutton have difficult histories with their own parents. So Sutton's birth father is a drug addict. Her actual family group, her mother, her stepdad, and her stepbrother, they are all really, really close and tight-knit, but she has real issues with her biological father because he used drugs, he was violent, and their relationship is not great. And so that has had a profound impact on her, and that's why she does what she does. She works with teens who have family members who are drug addicts. And this project is really, really important to her. And so when Alex comes in, initially he is very disrespectful, he is grumpy and surly, and of course he suddenly realizes he tries to be better because he starts to fall for Sutton. But he creates this self-fulfilling prophecy for himself, in that he keeps telling Sutton that he is going to screw up, and what do you know? He does. And his family issues are that his father wasn't good enough to make it to the NHL, and so he made it his mission to train Alex within an inch of his life, including when he makes mistakes, overtraining him, and also being physically abusive. And so they're both a mess. Sutton has a much healthier way of coping with her family messiness. I mean, it's only an average book for me, because I've read later Sawyer Bennett books and I love the heroes. I think they're really well rounded. I don't think they have the same toxic traits that Alex does. So I think this project of reading through her series in 2025 is going to be really interesting, just to see how her writing has progressed and how her heroes have changed. And I don't mind reading heroes like that every now and then, because no human is perfect. Humans are flawed. But I mean, if I wouldn't continue the series if that was the norm. So yes, that was an interesting one. I listened to that on audio. I had it up from Libby, so it was my car trip listen as I was traveling to and from family events. I also read The Wingman by Stephanie Archer. This one has been sitting on my TBR for a while, because this particular series, I DNF'd the first book. I really enjoyed the second book, and I actually really, really loved The Wingman. So we have our two protagonists and they're best friends. And our female protagonist was engaged to our MMC's best friend. They're both hockey players. But she wasn't happy in that relationship. It was kind of toxic. There was a lot of gaslighting going on. And so she ends up leaving and moving to Vancouver and moving in with our main male character. He has been in love with her for the longest time, but because they started out as friends, they met at college and his best friend asked her out first. He kind of kept his distance, but he kept the friendship going. And when I tell you that he is just all in for her, he is all in from the word go. And we talk about this a lot, I think, in romance spaces where particularly, I mean, not that we like the billionaire trope, but when you have characters who have money, it's not a fun time when the other person is constantly going, oh no, you can't spend that money on me. If they have that money and they're willing to spend it on you and they're willing to get things that you actually need, like it's not ostentatious, it's not over the top, it's things that you need and they're happy to provide it, for the love of all things holy, please let them buy it for you, because in this economy they can, so do it. And that's what this book is like. He is just anything she needs, he's willing to provide that for her. And he doesn't try to make the first move, he waits until she is ready for that. It's just great. Like, he is a total cinnamon roll. He is sunshine to the max and just delightful. And I really loved it. And I'm glad to see that this series is having more hits than misses, particularly since I did not like the first book. I also read Close Quarter by Zabo, which was a book that I started in my try chapter video. I was hoping to read during the Queer Lit Readathon. I just didn't get to it. This is a queer paranormal romance, which if I'd read anything about this book, I would have figured that out, but I really did not. And it starts out on a cruise ship. We have Reese, who has just lost his mother, has inherited some money and is taking this cruise back from one state to another and using that time to sort of to process and to stay out of the media because his mother was quite wealthy. And he runs afoul of Silas at one of the bars. He ends up spilling his drink on him and they have this really intense sexual scene in the first chapter between the decks. And Silas is very aloof and removed and very much in control. In the second chapter, we switch to Silas's perspective and we find out that he is immortal. He has been tasked by angels to hunt vampires, and there are vampires on this cruise. And that one of the vampires is a very, very powerful, very dangerous vampire. But Silas continues to be drawn back to Reese and Reese is drawn to him. And we find out that Reese, unbeknownst to himself, is also partially, I think, fae. And while I don't think this is the perfect story, because there are definitely flaws and pacing issues and some things that could have been more fleshed out, and there were things like Reese dealing with his mother's grief that I think probably could have been more developed. It was a really interesting concept for a paranormal world, including angels and fae and immortals and all that kind of thing. And I think because I wasn't really expecting that, it made it really fun to read. So I'm enjoying exploring Zabo's backlist. I think they have some really interesting work in their back catalogue, so I'll continue to do that. I also read 2 short stories by Saxon James that are part of the Accidental Love series. So I read The Anti-Wingman, which is book 0.5. This is Rylan and Kai's story, and it is about 2 men who accidentally meet on a dating app. One thinks it's a hookup app, the other knows it's a dating app. And one of them has just purchased this old house, which becomes Big Bone Bertha, which becomes the share house from the Accidental Love series. But it's how these 2 meet, how they fall in love. I'm pretty sure I've read this in another anthology at some point because it seemed very familiar, but I can't find where that is. So that's just me not paying attention to what's going on, but really fun and really cute. And then I read Friend for Hire, which is book 5.5 in the Accidental Love series. And this one is a sapphic romance between Elle, who is the sibling and one of the best friends of the main characters from the series, who hires, well, she thinks she's hiring a boyfriend or a guy to pretend to be her boyfriend and to help her with painting her apartment and things like that and to go to events. And instead, the guy that she has hired, his sister turns up, and so it becomes a friend for hire situation, except Margot is queer and begins to suspect that Elle is as well, but Elle doesn't have the words to articulate or doesn't have the understanding to articulate what it is about her that has always made relationships with men unappealing to her. She's quite happy to have sex with men, but doesn't feel any romantic feelings towards them. And throughout this story, she begins to become quite attached to Margot. And it's not a perfect story by any means. Elle is not a perfect character. Margot is kind of taken aback because Elle is quite wealthy and does wealthy people things where she just doesn't think about what she says or her actions. But Margot also does see that Elle is desperate for friendship and is genuine, but she doesn't always articulate that well. This is a story that I feel like probably could have used an extra 50 pages to flesh everything out and to develop these characters a little bit more. I really liked it, but I think we needed more. So that was an interesting one to read because it's the first sapphic romance that I've read by Saxon James. And then the last book that I read this week, and I'm ending on a high, is Married to the Devil by Lillian Lark, which is part of the Monstrous Matches series. I did receive an e-arc of this from Lillian Lark. Sorry about the lighting because the outside light keeps changing and I haven't fixed my box light yet. This is a polyamorous MMF relationship between a witch, a gargoyle, and a demon. I honestly probably should have read Hoarded by the Dragon again before I read this, but it's fine. I figured it out. So Stella is the best friend of the main female character from the previous book, and she has entered into an arranged marriage with a gargoyle territory leader named Remy, nicknamed the Devil, as part of an alliance with Kalos the dragon. And she is the rightful heir of this territory because her father, or her biological father, was the previous leader, but he was a tyrant and he rejected her because she wasn't a shifter but a witch, because her mother was a witch and he was a shifter. And she wants to see that territory stable and safe. So she's trying to do the right thing. She's not 100% certain about Remy. They don't really have a close relationship. He's very, very gruff and aloof. He's very emotionally unavailable to her, at least for the first part of the book. And he plays a lot of games to try and manipulate her. But he keeps underestimating her and what she's capable of. And she also foils some of his best laid plans. And so they get married. The wedding night does not go well. And she ends up calling in her best friend, Ben, who is a demon who can teleport. Remy instantly recognizes that there is this connection between the two of them, but what he doesn't expect is that he also recognizes a connection he has to the demon Ben. He starts finding ways to manipulate the situation where Ben is with them, because Ben is the second in command for Kalos, so he's the second in command for a different territory leader, so technically this is a conflict of interest. But he's trying to maneuver his wife and Ben, who he wants to be part of his territory. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, but it's kind of Lillian Lark. You just kind of have to read it to get it. Her books are always really steamy. So, I mean, you've got a gargoyle, so you have a size difference and also extra appendages. If you've read any of her previous books, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It does have breeding kink. There is a pregnancy in here, and it is Stella trying to get pregnant in order to create stability for the territory. She is totally willing in this situation. It's something she's willing to do, but it is a big part of the story. There is nodding, there is a lot of my wife, there is pain play because Ben is a bit of a masochist. Also a lot of dominance and submissive kind of dynamics because Remy is very much in charge. But like, it was fun. It was entertaining. I mean, anytime I get a Lillian Lark book, a new Lillian Lark book, I'm just thrilled because I love her writing. She is hands down probably one of the only monster romance authors that I will drop everything that I'm currently reading to read her books because I love it that much. So yes, that is my final Books Beside My Bed video for the time being. I hope that you have enjoyed this series. We got up to 362 videos over 8.5 years. So that's a fairly decent number of weekly wrap-ups, and stay tuned for what's coming in January. I hope that you will enjoy the slight format change and things like that, but I don't know. These videos may come back in the future. We'll just have to see how 2025 goes. My next big wrap-up will be an end of month wrap-up that you'll get in February for the month of January, assuming everything goes according to plan. In the comments, I would love to know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on picking any of them up, or if you have a favorite book that you have managed to read sometime over the last week or so. Feel free to share that down below. Otherwise, feel free to share your favorite end of year emoji down below to let me know that you're here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy. Happy New Year, and I will see you all in 2025. Bye everyone.